Everybody, hello from Boomer. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hey, if you're watching the replay, don't forget that you can tap the screen and give hearts, and you can still share the broadcast with your friends and family. Hey, Kaylin. Hey, Dog Mama. Welcome. I'm going to turn the camera around and get all set up for our training session. Hello, welcome. Clutch Chef, hello. Hey, Kaylin. Awesome. Oh, thanks for the hearts. Hello. Kind of trying to get all set up. Okay, good, because I don't like to fiddle with the camera too much while we are broadcasting. Excellent. I got weird lighting behind me. How can I get rid of that? Maybe a little bit like this. Cool. You can see our Christmas tree in the mirror there. That's cool. Pets Who Travel's back. Awesome. I'm up in New York City. Tomorrow I'll be going back to Maryland. So I have only my own 3 dogs with me on this trip to New York. Welcome. Glad you guys are joining us. Hope everyone's having a good day. Good Monday. Hello. Thanks for being here. A nice start to the week with getting some dog training done. And so I had somebody ask me on one of the Periscopes last week if I would do a Periscope on how to teach a dog the command leave it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach you guys how to train the command leave it. And I'm going to put in a giant disclaimer, which is I almost never use that command. Albuquerque, New Mexico, how hard is it to train a full-grown dog? Not hard at all. Not at all hard. Most of the dog, a huge percentage of the dogs that we train in my business are full-grown. It's always great when we get them as puppies because we can always start them off on the right foot. But it doesn't always happen that way, and sometimes we get dogs that are full-grown with behavior modification. You know, they have some issues or problems, and they need help in changing those behaviors, and that's what we do. Hey there, Sarah. Nice to have you here. Welcome. So glad you could make it. So those of you that are new to me, or if you're not yet following me, if you like what you see in the broadcast today, please don't forget to follow me so that you'll see other broadcasts in the future. And if you have followers on Twitter or Facebook or even on Periscope that you think, if they have dogs and you think that they would appreciate learning or hearing 2 grown blue heelers. Awesome, cool, thanks for joining. This will be pretty interesting, I think, for those of you that have dogs. If you have friends or family that have dogs, please don't hesitate to share the broadcast so they can get the value out of these lessons as well. Cool, so if you're new to me, I always like to take a minute just to introduce myself. Awesome, get your dog to swim with you, yep. What's the worst dog to train certain breeds? Oh, I'm so sorry you are stuck in bed recovering, and I guess it's good to catch on by Periscope while you're stuck in bed, but I'm very sorry that you're not feeling well, and hopefully, Sarah, you feel better quickly. So I'd sometimes jump on Periscope and do question and answer sessions, and I always appreciate it, you guys, when you ask me questions, and I want to stay on task in this particular Periscope in honoring what the title of the Periscope is, so that when people see the title and they click on the replay to watch it, that's what they'll get, as opposed to going on a tangent right away. So, oh, I look tired. I'm so sorry. I don't feel tired, so probably because, I don't know, interesting. I appreciate you saying that, though. Show some training. Absolutely, that's what we're going to do. We're going to show some training. We're going to show you how to train leave it. And for those of you that have other questions, we'll address them either in the question answer Periscopes or around my eyes are very black. Oh, interesting. I have no makeup on, so that might be part of it as well. But I rarely wear makeup regardless. So my name is Kim Greco, and I own a dog training business called Paws and Possibilities, and I am the creator of our online training program called Manners Matter, and we specialize in teaching people how to have their dogs have good manners. Thank you, Sarah. And Johnny, I'm just going to talk mostly about dog training. So Johnny, if you're interested in dog training and you want to, well, thank you, Barefoot Piper. Oh, Sarah, I'm so sorry. Johnny, if you're interested in dog training, feel free to stay. And if you're interested in anything else, then this is probably not the right Periscope for you to be on. So we're going to talk about training leave it. And my big disclaimer for you is that it's actually a command. I train dogs, but I rarely use it. And that surprises a lot of people because they often think that that's a command that they use very, very frequently. So what are some, let me ask you this, what are some things, if your dog knew the command leave it, what are some things that you would use it for? What would you tell your dog leave it for? And then I'm curious to see sort of what you guys share with me, those of you that are willing to contribute to the conversation. What do you use it for? Why would you say leave it to your dog if your dog knew that command? And then we're gonna go, I'll share with you why and when I use it, and I'll demonstrate how I train it. Trash on a walk, street trash, yeah, that's really, really common. And ew, dead animals, yeah, definitely leave that. Don't pay attention to the dead animals, that's definitely a good one. Awesome, so that's perfect. If anybody else wants to throw them up there, that's great, but that's sort of what I had in mind when I asked the question, is that most people want to use that command. Anything I didn't want them to get into? Yeah, okay. And the cat doesn't want to play, kids' toys, awesome. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for your contributions when I ask questions like that. I never know if you guys feel like participating in that or not, so I appreciate your comments. Now, here's the way I look at it. It stems back to the difference between obedience and manners, and I really do specialize in teaching dogs to have good manners. So it's all linked to like, well, what is your definition of things? So I took my big German Shepherd on a long walk this morning. He's right there, hanging out. By the way, he's not on a command, and he's not, I haven't told him to lie down. He's just choosing that, which is awesome. And then, so I took him on a long walk this morning. Fish moving in a tank, leave it. Oh, leave it, like don't pay attention to the fish moving. Cool. Well, I was walking. So I'm in New York City, I'm in Staten Island, and I literally saw a huge whole full bagel sitting on the sidewalk. And as I was approaching it, that's the kind of thing that I was thinking a lot of people would at that moment tell their dogs, leave it, right? Makes perfect sense. Like, I don't want you to eat that. Who knows where it's been? And I don't want you to have it. Each breed different when training, not really. I train all dogs sort of the same way, so not for me. But so I'm walking along the sidewalk, and there's hey there, Elias, I'm so glad you're here. Walking along the sidewalk, and there's a bagel on the ground, and I don't want my dog to pick it up. He knows the command, leave it, but I didn't tell him leave it, which is a little weird for most people. And let me explain why. It's because I know, Sarah, you're so cute. So my thought is that my definition for walking my dog on a sidewalk is that I don't want him to pick anything up. He's never supposed to pick something up. I'm never going to walk along the sidewalk and have it be okay for him to reach down and pick something up off the ground. So you have a Dalmatian. That's awesome. Cool. So if I'm walking along the sidewalk, and if Boomer had tried to investigate or pick up or look at that bagel, I would have just corrected him. I would have in that moment probably said no and corrected. He had a prong collar on. I would have pulled the leash and kept on walking. But I don't preface it with leave it. And here's the reason why. It's because I'll only give a dog an obedience command, like leave it, if it's something they're allowed to have sometimes, but right now I don't want them to have it. So if there's a toy on the ground and right now they have it and they play with it, but then I wanted them to not play with it, I would say leave it. A good example is like a squeaky toy that I find really annoying. If they're squeaking it and it's just grating on me and I can't stand it, I might say leave it, meaning sometimes you're allowed to have it, but right now I want you to not have it. Leave it. Different than it's something you are never supposed to have. If you are never supposed to have it, then I don't want to say leave it, and here's why. If I say leave it and you do leave it, I'm going to want to reinforce you for that. I'm going to want to, if I am going to ask a dog for an obedience command, I will, so leave it's only for, this is my own personal philosophy. Some people, it doesn't have to be this way. This is not a deal breaker for me with regards to training dogs. This is just me personally. I don't say leave it. Or here's the difference. If there was something on the ground way ahead of time and I saw it, I could say leave it ahead of time and they never showed any inclination towards it. But if a dog starts to show an inclination towards it, I don't want to say leave it at that point, because in my book, they've already done something wrong, if that makes sense. So I also want to show you how I do train leave it. I'll clicker train leave it with regards to, so leave it's okay if you let the cat, yep, absolutely. Yeah, totally makes sense. Good, Sarah, thanks. I appreciate that. I want to demonstrate how I train it because I use a clicker to clicker train the command so that the dogs know what it means. But then I use it really at times. It's not like they're doing something wrong and they're in trouble, so I say leave it. If they're doing something wrong, something that they shouldn't be doing, I correct that. So in my book, if you are investigating trash on the street, that's wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. Cool. I hope that makes sense. Awesome. So let me get the dogs in place because none of them were on commands. So I didn't even know what he was doing back there. He's lying down. I'll use Boomer. Let me get Molly out of the way. Molly girl, hello. Hey there. Welcome. Some people are just joining. We are just about to demonstrate how I clicker train a dog to learn the command, leave it. Molly girl, good girl. Up, up. Up. Good. So I just told her to get out of the way. You've been working your ass off. Thanks to you. Thank you. Awesome. So glad. This dog right here is a German Shepherd. And I don't know if you could see Molly. I just called another dog out of the way. And she's a Shih Tzu mix. But I just wanted to demonstrate this with Boomer, mainly because he will be harder to train. So I thought you would see. So I have like his favorite treats here just to make it a little bit more difficult for him. He's like, yes, right? So excited. So I literally would start by teaching a dog this exercise, which is the treats in my hand. I'm going to click and you're going to get it when you stop trying to get it. Right? Makes sense? So they already start to learn. It's really already kind of learning leave it without any words. So this is sort of manners based, right? I don't want you to kind of be an idiot and try to grab it out of my hand. I want you to just be patient. Right. Awesome. Good. Cool, let me get a little closer. Oh, thanks, so I can see your comments better. Come on over, Boomer. Good. He should be a little better at this than he is right now, which is good. Oh, I love it when you guys hang out and chat with each other. The community on Periscope is just so awesome. Love it. Love it. So, let me move him over here. Don't use your feet. All right, so... Right? Can you kind of already get the feel of the behavior? When I click, he gets the treat. So now, let me see where you'll be able to see him on the ground. If I put it in front of him, let me move him. Good. Good. Over here. This way. Good. Down. Excellent. I wanted you guys to have some space in front of him so you could see. So now I have the treat here, and I can start to integrate. I'll use the word right away because I'm pretty you'll do this one. I'm pretty confident that he's not going to get it. Is he yours or in for training? This is mine. He was in for training, and then I accidentally adopted him when the owners decided he really was too much of a dog for them to handle. I've had him since February. So he's kind of stuck with me. And he's growing on me. He's such an awesome dog. So I'm going to put the treat down on the ground. So where can you see it? I got to figure out. Okay, good. So I'm going to work on, when I first integrate it, I'll do it without saying anything first. So, being on everything. Awesome. So I'm going to not answer other questions right now. I'm going to just focus right on leave it. So this treat in my hand, I'm going to put it on the ground and not say anything. But I'm going to do something very similar to what I just did. And I can click and treat when it's on the ground and he doesn't get it. The flower circle. Oh, is that where? Yeah, I'll put it right in the flower. I'll put right in the middle of the flower circle. So my hand is covering it at first. So he almost got it. So he can see it and he can smell it, but I'm hoping that this would keep him from actually trying to get it. And you can start your dog actually with a little bit more distance. What if he tries to get it? So for me, I'd probably say and then I would cover it. So you could start your dog like with the treat really far away. For him, this is a pretty good distance to be working on. It's pretty hard for him. In an ideal world, I would even click if he were looking at me and not at the treat. Let's see if we can get that. He is. So does that little motion towards it, and I could just block it again. So he kind of knows, like, you're not going to get it that way. Just reaching down to get it is not going to let you get it. Good. So he shifted his eyes towards me. In all honesty, I think because I'm talking to you guys, he's already, there we go. Good. And there's a big, sometimes when people train this, there's a lot of times people will say, never let them eat the treat that's on the ground. Always give them a different treat, like take one from your pouch and give it to them instead of the one on the ground. I don't actually think that matters. I do pick it up and deliver it to the dog most of the time, but even that doesn't matter. The click is taking a picture of what he's doing, and what he was doing when you took the picture was leaving it. So I can integrate the word very easily, leave it. And give it to him. You can make it harder and harder, right? Getting closer and closer, or something he likes more and more, or integrate sometimes toys and sometimes food. Leave it. So even close enough that he could just eat it right there. So that's pretty much in a nutshell. You're just gonna do that. What's your favorite treat? These are duck flavored treats and he loves them. I don't have a particular type of treat that I like because it's really case dependent on the dog. But these particular treats I'm using are, I actually have them right here, I can show you. So, and by the way, we have a little bit of a place command happening at the same time. So these two are hanging out on their chair and their goal was not interrupting us. You taught, okay, good. You taught it the same way. Question, any preference on letting him get it or you feed it after? Yeah, so I usually like to hand it to him. Good, awesome. I usually like to hand it to him, but it's not, it's not 100%. So the ones I was just feeding are these. They're made with duck, small bites. I like them because they're little. Hey there, Cammie, nice that you're here, thanks. I like them that they're little and I don't have to break them up. So they're like this size. And for him, that's pretty good size. Cool. So I'm going to make that harder and harder over time. I'm going to integrate it with different types of treats or different distance of treats. Sometimes I'll do it with a pile of treats. Sometimes I'll throw a whole bunch of food on the ground and then I'll say leave it just to practice making it harder and harder. But your goal as you make it harder and harder is that your dog keeps getting it right. So if you try to make it harder and your dog gets it wrong, well, then you made it too hard, and next time you should try to make it a little easier so that they'll get it right. Cool. Any questions about that? It's kind of a unique twist in my world about the fact that I don't really use it for if my dog is doing something wrong. I don't use that command to get him to stop. So I'm pretty strict in my world about if my dog is doing something wrong, I'll just correct them for doing it wrong. But I'm not going to then give them an obedience command to get them to stop. I'm just going to say no and that they should stop. Would you leave it for a person's plate of food, or is that a correction? So if it's a person's plate of food, yeah, no, they would never ever be allowed to eat a person's plate of food. So if it is a little challenging to explain to pet parents. So if I had food and I got some food and I came in and I sat down on the floor right next to Boomer, if he had any inclination to want to try to eat my food, he'd be wrong because it's my food and I haven't given it to him. That doesn't mean that I won't necessarily ever give my dog's people food, but I would never do it while I was eating or from my plate or any of that. So in his world, we are very, very clear, like this just isn't anything to do with you. You don't get to make any motion towards it. They're using it wrong. You have to work on your teaching skills. Yeah, so you just have to explain it in a way that it's going to really make sense to them. And so when they're using it wrong, Cammie, I'm just curious, are they using it more like trying to get their dog to stop doing something wrong? That's what I find. What if you left a plate on the coffee table? Sarah, what's your definition? If your definition is that sometimes your dog gets to eat off the plate on the coffee table, then sure, you could say leave it, but my definition is not that. Do dog people get it? Yeah, exactly. Right. So for me, it's just really harping and explaining on why I personally do not give an obedience command to a dog in response to a dog doing something wrong. I look at it, and in all honesty, I think pet parents get it when I explain it this way. I look at it as it's all about relationship building. Awesome. I am doing fantastic, and I hope you are also. I explain it as relationship building. So I say, if I'm going to ask my dog to do something, I want to be able to reinforce them if they do it. Yeah, my clients don't know much at all. You love the perspective. Thanks. So we're just going to focus primarily on dog training. And if you are interested in dogs or dog training, I would love for you to stay. Anything else, then this is probably not the Periscope for you. Trust in relationship, awesome. Yep. Sometimes we let him clean the occasional plate before washing, but never left out. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that. It's just about what's the definition of when are they allowed to clean their plate. I'm guessing they're not allowed to clean your plate while you're still working on it, while you're still eating it, right? So if I leave a plate on a coffee table and I walk into the other room, it's off limits to that dog. And I don't have to say leave it. I don't have to tell him to lie down. Awesome. Yes, I totally remember talking to you before. I think you were asking if I had a book, and that you did have a book, but it was only in a different language, so I couldn't read it. But awesome. Thanks so much for being here and for joining us again. And you guys are being super generous with your hearts. Would you sometimes only give a treat with this? When I'm first training a dog, I would give him a treat every time. So once they know it, in all honesty, at this point, my dogs know it. This is hard for Boomer to do with treats he really likes, but in real life situation, if there was something on the ground and I said leave it, like dog kibble, he would leave it because he's not that. But if it were these treats on the ground, I would reinforce him if he left it. So for me, I look at it with clicker training is that if I'm impressed that the dog gets it right, I'll still reinforce it. But once their behavior is consistent enough and they get it right often enough and they know it well enough that I'm not impressed anymore that they get it right, I would be more surprised if they get it wrong. That's when I just very naturally and very organically stop reinforcing for it as often, because it's just, in order for me to click and treat, I've got to be pretty impressed that they did it right, if that makes sense. Cool. Awesome. About 80% of the time is your go-to. Yeah, you know what though, Cammie, I really like to explain to owners that concept of that if they're impressed, they should click and treat, and if they're not impressed, then they don't need to, because there are some circumstances, like let's say jumping. Let's say you have a dog that jumps, and on day one, he jumps on everybody all the time. So if his feet are on the floor, I would click and treat if he's near another person, because I'm impressed that his feet are on the floor. And then let's say you've been training that for a week or 2 weeks, and it gets to the point that you barely see any jumping, and he never, ever, ever jumps on his family anymore. But when they have somebody come and ring the doorbell, and the energy level's a little higher, and their friend walks in their house, hello, welcome, then the dog was still jumping. So I would fade out the click and treats for jumping on the family pretty soon if he's eliminated it, he's not doing it anymore, but you're still seeing, I only speak English, thanks though. If they're still jumping on people at the door, I would be still clicking at the door. So instead of just saying 80% of the time you should click and treat for no jumping, your proportions might be skewed slightly different depending on the circumstance and the distraction level. I do sometimes use a target stick. I haven't really used discs as much like that, but I've used a target stick. A lot of times I'll specifically use literally a target stick, but a lot of times I'll just use my hand. Yes, when a new stimulus comes up, you start over again and build up. Yep. So I just look at it as like on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard is it? And you're always trying to make it harder. But every time you make it harder, obviously you're going to be impressed again that your dog is being good. So we're talking about dog training, specifically clicker training, and I just demonstrated with my dog how you can train a dog to know the command of leave it. So that's what we're talking about, and thanks so much for asking. Do you listen to country music? No, I don't generally have music playing. Not relevant, I know. Hello, it's you. Hello. Welcome. And so some trainers, you know what though, a lot of trainers have music on when they're training, and it helps the people and the trainer sometimes stay calm. But for me, a lot of times, especially clicker training, this kind of stuff. Seeing resource guarding, how to nip it before it's a big problem. Yeah, it's all in the foundation. So I want to make sure, I can touch on that again, but I want to make sure that, do I have a dog? Yep, I've got 3 dogs. I'll actually see them real quick, because they're all a little off topic. There's Boomer. He's the one we demonstrated leave it with. And we've got Abby. Hey, cutie. She's looking out the window to see what's happening in the neighborhood. And Molly. She's also looking out the window now to see what's happening in the neighborhood. Boomer was just hanging out and chilling. That's it, you guys. I want to make sure we're complete on the leave it command. And if we're complete on that, you guys are pretty comfortable with that. Dog TV. I don't really know if it was the real Donald Trump. I didn't think it was, but maybe. If it was, that's awesome, especially if he likes dogs. Has nothing to do with me. Yeah. You love my dogs. Thank you. So you guys, if we're complete on Leave It, then I'm happy to move on and take maybe another 10 minutes or so and answer questions if you guys have other questions, but I definitely want to make sure that we're complete with Leave It first. So first and foremost, if anybody has any more Leave It questions, or specifically, I know my philosophy is really, really unique with regards to not giving an obedience command in response to bad behavior. What are you doing about Dobermans? I'm not sure I understand the question. I don't do anything particular about Dobermans. You have a German Shepherd? Yeah, that's awesome. PawsnPossibilities.com. Thank you so much, Cammie, for posting up my website. Yep, and you can find information on the website. Our blog has some really great articles on the website. And if you guys have not already gotten it, we have a free download on the first page, the home page of the website, that is all about trying to make sure that you avoid the most common and critical mistake that most people make when they're training their dog. Pretty simple to avoid making it as long as you are aware of what that is. So if you don't already have that, feel free to grab it right over at PawsnPossibilities.com. Could you use this type of training for peeing, like click and treat when they use a pee pad? Absolutely. So I'm not a huge fan of pee pads, but instead of Leave It, could you just sound that means that handy with big distance? Absolutely. You can integrate a verbal command or a hand signal or an auditory command for any of your commands. This is your dog joke? I don't know. What smells like crap? It has a nail at the end of it. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, lovely. Okay. Well, it could have been a funny, potentially had a chance of being a funny joke, but no. So, pee pads, could you clicker train for pee pads? Yes, you could, absolutely. Now, the only thing, if you're going to use a clicker for, awesome, cool. Thanks so much for coming over then from the other scope. I appreciate that. So if you're going to use a clicker for training, house training, for peeing on a pee pad or peeing outside, the most important thing to remember is that I don't want you to click. Normally when we're clicker training, we want to click at the actual moment that the dog is doing the correct behavior. But if you want to use a clicker for house training, I want you to completely wait until your dog is done going to the bathroom and takes the first step away. So completely finished before you click. So your click will be latent. It will be delayed on purpose, and that's because a lot of times your dog will get to know what the clicker means so well that they'll actually stop going to the bathroom to come over and get their treat, which will not help you house train your dog at all. So you always have to wait until they're finished. So it's the only thing with the clicker training that I ever recommend that you purposely are late for clicking, if that makes sense. You'll get a dog that will if a dog is really food motivated, sometimes just clicker training for going to the bathroom outside is enough to get the dog to ask to go outside, which is one of the things that people certainly struggle with, is getting your dog to communicate to you. And so sometimes, yeah, definitely you want to wait, because your dog literally could stop peeing, rush over to get their treat, and come back in. Absolutely. Thanks so much for stopping in from the Netherlands. I really appreciate you being here. Yeah, so you don't want your dog to stop peeing and come over to get their treat if they're not done, right? That's not going to help you. Cool. Any other questions about either clicker training or dog training in general? I know you guys threw some questions up earlier. In all honesty, I don't really remember what they were when they were not related to training Leave It. But in this case, if you guys still have questions, I still have time, so I'm happy to answer them for you. And if not, then I will sign off and we will see you again very soon. But if you guys have questions, it looks like questions are slowing down. It looks like hearts are slowing down. Somebody said something about, oh, resource guarding. You're right, Cammie, thank you. Could you use the phrase good boy instead of click? Okay, I'll do those two. Resource guarding and good boy instead of click. So resource guarding, do I say yes and click at the same time? They're interchangeable, Elias. You do one or the other. Yes and treat or click and treat. You don't have to say yes. Click is perfect, but you could interchange them. Resource guarding, yeah, for me, I think resource guarding is all about the fundamentals and the basics. So if you can manage a dog and control the dog and lead the dog, do some leadership exercises and some calming exercises, and you're working with the dog to have a lot of structure where every part of their life, the resources in their life are coming from you, it almost instantly helps with, thank you, Cammie. It almost instantly helps with resource guarding. But for me, if I specifically have a dog with resource guarding issues, I layer in all of the basics and foundations and the resource guarding is still there, then I look at it as I set up a very safe approximation where either that dog is back tied, there's not a chance I'm going to get bit, but I'll set up a very safe approximation. And as I start the approximation, I make it super clear to the dog. It's like, you have a toy, or you have food and I want to take it away from you. Perfect, I'll get to that in just a second. Thank you for asking again though, I appreciate that. So if you have, let's say you have a bowl of food and I want you to stop eating, or you have a toy and I want to take it from you. Let's say that you have a toy and I want to take it from you, but your dog resource guards toys. And so then, by the way, Cammie, I actually don't think that they're interchangeable, so I'll get to that one in a minute. I don't recommend good boy instead of a click. But thank you, by the way, Cammie, for helping. I appreciate that. So for me, resource guarding here, imagine an approximation where if the dog has a toy and you're walking up to the dog, one of two things is going to happen. He's either going to let you take the toy, in which case I would click and treat, or he's going to resist giving you the toy, and then I would make sure I have a really clear definition about what does that mean. I don't have to wait until he tries to bite me to correct him, but if he does anything, if he sometimes just gets tight or still or hovers over it with this thing of like, I don't want you to have it, then I would say no and correct the dog. So if they're going to let me have it, I would click and treat. If they're not going to let me have it, I would correct. And then I just basically set it up so it's pretty simple for the dog to learn. One of two things is going to happen. You're going to get something that you love or something that you don't like, and it's up to you which way this goes. Then for serious cases of resource guarding, it's more dangerous, but for minor cases, that's a very simple way. Cool, for resource guarding. Now, for interchanging good boy instead of clicking. That's okay, Cammie. No, I appreciate, I know your intention was 100% to support me, so I really appreciate that. But for me, I say that, people tell their dog good boy all day long, let's say 100 times a day. And how many of those times that your dog hears good boy do you, sure, thanks, I'm glad that makes sense about the resource guarding. How many times that your dog hears good boy do you pair it with a treat on any given day? Like, what percentage? Most dogs, I'm going to say, they'd be lucky if 5% of the time that you said good boy, they got a treat out of it, right? Like, not very often. You tell them, oh, you're a good boy. Oh, you're so good. Oh, you're good boy, good boy, good boy, all day long. And very rarely is it paired with, let me hand you food. With clicker training, 100% of the time they hear the click, they will get a treat. Because of that 100% rate, the clicker is incredibly powerful with, exactly. So the click is incredibly powerful in communicating to your dog the moment they do something right, because your dog knows they're going to get a treat. You can interchange the click with the word yes. It's harder, in my opinion, it's harder because we still forget. But if you could be responsible enough for yourself to say that 100% of the time that you said the word yes, you would give your dog a treat, you can create that the word yes would be just as powerful in communicating to your dog as the click. But I don't recommend doing that with good boy, because that percentage rate, even if you, thank you, Cammie, you're awesome. Thanks, I really, really appreciate you sending out my website. So right, even if you really tried to feed more often when you said good boy, it still's not gonna be 100%. I hope that makes sense, but that's why. The information that your dog gets when you're telling him 100% that he's gonna get a treat makes him understand so clearly that it's as if the moment you click or the moment you say yes, you've taken a photograph and you hand him that picture and you say, see this picture? Whatever he's doing in that picture, you're letting him know that you like it, and best part, you want him to do that more often, right? You want to see more of it. You'll get more of it. When you really clearly reinforce it correctly, he will offer it more often, which is why it's so important that you don't want to accidentally reinforce stuff that you don't want. So if your dog is doing something bad and you give them something that they like, that's why you're using the clicker for new training. Yeah, absolutely, and keeps you responsible. Perfect. You can pick up a clicker, yeah, at any pet store. Yep, absolutely. And there's different clickers and they make different sounds. I just happen to have a couple right here. So let's see if I turn this a little, you can see. So when you're at the pet store, click them and see what you like. So this is one I have that's like my business, like logo stuff on it. And this one makes kind of a loud click. And this is a different one I'm actually testing to see if I want to switch to this kind to then get my logo on it. This one's quieter. So it just depends on like what sound you like. So just so you know, as you go to buy a clicker, there are different kinds and different clicks and different all that. So whatever you like. If you're going to be working outdoors or long distances, you may actually want to have a louder clicker so they can hear it longer. Do my dogs each have their own clicker? No, my dogs are clicker trained in a way with multiple dog households, and honestly this is a whole topic for a scope in and of itself. For multiple dog households it gets a little more confusing. So my dogs know that I could do a training session with all 3 dogs simultaneously and that they're all working and interchangeable, like I could tell them all to do whatever I want. So awesome, 23 John, I'm so glad you're here, and I do appreciate you just speaking English here because it's the only language that I know. Some people use the sound from their mouth as a clicker, right? And if you can make that sound and pair it with food 100% of the time, right, that would work too. But for my dogs, louder. Sometimes dogs are a little nervous of the sound at the beginning, and so you might actually want to muffle the sound at the beginning. So that they don't get nervous by some weird loud sound kind of. I usually will put it in my pocket. Hello, welcome. And so for my personal dogs, like what we just saw here when I did the demonstration with Boomer, was that I told my 2 little dogs, like, hey, get over there. I told them up, like meaning you get up there and stay there. And they have to be on the couch and stay out of my way. And then I can work, thank you, Cammie. Then I can work Boomer independently. And they know that this just isn't their session. And later I could do the same with Boomer. I am taking questions. Yes, actually I am, because I had a little extra time. So if you guys have questions, I'm happy. Thank you for asking though. I feel like that's incredibly polite to ask if I'm taking questions. And Russia. So if you're from Russia, thanks so much for being here. Anyway, I hope that makes sense too about the clicking. So with my dogs, they just know it's situational and dependent if I'm working 1, or I could work 2, or I could work 3, and whichever one I'm working, if I'm not working the others, that they're just not allowed to interrupt me. They're not allowed to come over and try to see what I'm doing. Russia, Moscow. I think we've got some people here from Russia. If that's the case, love it. Very cute. I love it, Cammie. Thank you. Yes. And so somebody asked if I was taking questions, and I haven't seen them ask a question, but if there's any other questions, I'm here. I'm available. Hopefully that helped with Leave It. It's definitely a unique situation. They're probably typing, I know. I'd hate to just be like, okay, bye, you guys have a great day, right after I told him I would take his question. Here we go. You want to ask what's the best way to try to get your puppies to go to the wee-wee pads? Awesome. So you can use a clicker for that. You can, I would start though with them on leash. So when they're, first of all, I always put this disclaimer in that I don't actually recommend using pee pads. If your long-term goal is going to be to have the dogs as grown-up dogs go to the bathroom outside, then I personally believe that the dogs should be going to the bathroom outside even from the get-go. I sort of make exceptions to that rule if I have a client that lives in a situation where it's really difficult to get them outside, and long-term they may not actually even want them to go outside anyway, then we use pee pads. But all that aside, just to answer your question, to get them to go to the pee pad, you need to put them on a leash, and when you know they need to go to the bathroom, walk them over to the pee pad. You'd be doing a 2-step party, yeah. So, and then sometimes, for me, here's my definition. If I have a dog that long-term I want the dog to go to the bathroom outside, I don't ever want them, right, exactly. I don't ever want them to have it be okay that they're going to the bathroom in the house. So I think it gets a little confusing for some dogs. For one day it's okay to go to the bathroom in the house, but then the next day it's not. So if that's the case, and if you have a specific reason that you want to train it that way, when you first start using pee pads, I generally recommend using more than 1, depending on the size of the dog. You could even put 4 out to make kind of a big square on the ground, and then train them on a leash to go over there to go to the bathroom. When they go to the bathroom, as soon as they're done going to the bathroom, you can click and give them a treat. And then over time, you could make the space of the pee pads smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually it's just one. And if you're somebody who eventually would like to transfer that to outside, a lot of times I actually recommend taking the pee pads outside and putting them outside. They're Shih Tzus. I have two. Have you seen mine? They're Shih Tzu mixes. They're just hanging out. This is what they look like almost all day long. Mine are a half Shih Tzu, and they're rescue dogs, so their mom was a Shih Tzu. And we don't know exactly what the other half is, but we've been told that other people in their litter thought it was Beagle. So, awesome. So, for me, I mean, these guys go outside, so that's my take on it. And if you wanted to, I never sort of make a presumption to tell people how to train their dog or what you want your definitions to be. I try to provide you support on having you be able to create the relationship that you want. Awesome. Good. Perfect. Did you see the question? Oh, I might have missed a question. I don't think I did see the next question. I'm sorry. You guys have to type it all in, and if I miss it, then you're like, what? You type it again? So, yeah, I don't think I saw it. I am going to remind you, though, I love it that you're here, but I only speak English. I know it looks like a Jack Russell Shih Tzu to me also, but so I agree with you. But there was a couple other people, 3 males, 1 female. Are we talking about house training still? I'm so sorry, Nina K. I missed the question. So now just knowing 3 females and 1 male, I'm not quite sure exactly what that means without some more information, because I definitely think I missed the question. Yeah, so who knows what mine are. If you have her fixed, 3 males and 1 female. If you, are you asking me, is it okay? I didn't mess anything up. I'm just doing the best I can to help you guys out. And I know you're kidding. I saw the, just kidding, just kidding. How do I get them to stop barking in the middle of the night? They bark at any movement. You have lots of different options, and it drives you crazy. So they do make bark collars, so that's one possibility. Will that cut down the peeing if you get her spayed? It's possible that it would cut down. It would be definitely possible it would cut down on the peeing if they're spayed or neutered, but not guaranteed. So a lot of times I feel like, oh, awesome. Hopefully you told them I said hi. I would have loved that. Does that hurt them? So it depends on what it's set on. You could get a bark collar. I have a bark collar that just sprays like a citronella spray. And if you think they're marking, then probably getting them neutered would help. There's some bark collars that spray out that doesn't hurt them, it startles them, and there are some bark collars that send an electrical current, and depending on what you have it set on, it could either just surprise them or it could actually get to the point where it hurts them. It kind of depends on how committed you are to eliminating the behavior. I'll be honest with you, I put a bark collar on Abby. I use a bark collar by a company that's called E-Collar Technologies. And there's also one by Garmin that I know several people have recommended, but I haven't used it. And the one by Garmin, it's set on, when she barks, it corrects her at a level 6 because I put a 50% reduction on it. And thanks, Sarah, I appreciate that. So it corrects her basically on a level 6 of the e-collar. And when I put the e-collar on my inside of my wrist like this, I can't even feel it until it's on a 7. So it doesn't hurt her. I can guarantee that. But in all honesty, if I put the spray bark collar on her, where if she barks, it puts a puff of citronella spray out by her face, it startles her and scares her so much that she just gets so panicked and worried she just drools. So I would say for her, that collar spraying is way worse for her than feeling it at a level 6. So, and the scent lingers, I know. So, which I like that, Sarah, because when I walk into the room, I can tell if the collar has gone off or not. You are very, very welcome. I'm glad that you re-asked your question that I missed the first time, so thank you. Yeah, so we have all sorts of things that we could chat about. I just wanted to hop on here particularly to tell you guys about the Leave It. So if you were late to the broadcast and you wanted to watch the replay, the topic that we talked about at the beginning of the Periscope You are very welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. You're very welcome about my suggestions. I'm glad that. And if you're not already following me and you're watching live, please press the little Periscope guy in the corner and follow me so that you can see broadcasts in the future as well. You are following me. Awesome. Thank you so much. And if you think that this is kind of information that would be helpful to your friends on Twitter or Facebook or Periscope, please don't hesitate to share the broadcast as well, because they'll see the stream for the replay and that they'll be able to watch it. And if they have dogs, they may also find this information very, very helpful. So my goal is that we just have a world full of well-mannered dogs. So anything we can do to get the word out there, to help you guys with training, help you, give you hope on making sure that your dog really can be well-mannered, you will share my channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You can do it now if you know how. You can actually either swipe up or swipe over, depending on if you have Android or iPhone, and share the broadcast. It sort of automatically shares it with your Twitter or your Facebook crew or your Periscope followers. If you find that convenient, if you want to share it in another way, any way that we get the word out is always very helpful. And I always appreciate you guys sharing that. If you have more questions, please don't hesitate to ping me on Twitter. My Twitter name, my Twitter handle is the same as my Periscope name. So I should be pretty easy for you guys to find me over on Twitter as well. Thank you so much for inviting your followers. I really appreciate that. And we'll get the message out to more people. This particular Periscope will help them learn how to teach Leave It, but in all honesty, there's tons of other really great, juicy information inside this Periscope as well. And I will be back to share some more information with you guys tomorrow. Take care and have an awesome day. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. I appreciate it. Take care.